This video will address order of operations with integers. So order of operations, most people have learned PEMDAS. First you do the parentheses, then you do the exponents, then you multiply, divide, moving left to right. And it could be divide first, multiply second, but it's all the multiply divides first as a team, and then all the add subtracts moving left to right. As you'll see in this, sometimes parentheses aren't just parentheses. It could be other kinds of groupings. It could be brackets. It could be a fraction bar. When we talk about parentheses, we talk about some sort of group that needs to be dealt with first. So when I'm looking at this first problem, first thing I want to do is see, are there any parentheses? Yep, right here. 1 minus 3. So I need to solve that and then move on from there. So if I'm going to do 1 minus 3, I'm going to use the box method. That I have 1, which is a positive 1, oops, and I have a negative 3. So I have a positive box and I have a negative box. The 1 goes in the positive box, the 3 goes in the negative box, and my question is, which box has more? The negative has more, so my answer is going to be negative. How many more? Well, 3 is 2 more than 1, so there's 2. So then I copy down everything else. So now I have negative 4, there's still a parentheses, but now this parentheses simply means times. So negative 4 times negative 2 minus 8. So parentheses is done, there's no exponent, so I'd move on to multiply and divide, which means I'm going to do this next. Negative 4 times negative 2. Negative times negative, that means I have 2 negatives. That's an even number, so I know my answer is going to be positive. 4 times 2 is 8. Now I have 8 minus 8 is 0. Okay, so that's one problem. Let's move on to this one. I look at it, there's no parentheses, so then I'm going to exponents. This here is an exponent, so I'm going to say that I have negative 10 minus, and then I'm going to do the 5 times 5. And I just write it out, which means the next thing I'm going to do is the multiply divide. 5 times 5 is 25, or I could have just said, I know 5 squared, 25. So now I have negative 10 minus 25. Again, I'm going to do the box method, because I have a negative 10 subtract 25. I have a positive box and negative box. The 10 goes in the negative box. I'm going to box these off to see what I have. I have a negative 10 and I have a negative 25. Which box has more? Well, the 0 in this one. So the negative box has more, so the sign of my problem is going to be, sign of my answer is going to be negative because that box has more. How many more? Well, there's none in here, and there's 10 plus 25, so there's 35 in here. So the answer is negative 35. So another problem, parentheses. This parentheses just means times. There's nothing I can do inside of it. It's just setting it up for times, so I'm not going to do that. There's no exponent, so I'm going to multiply and divide moving left to right. So this is 48 minus, first thing I come across multiply or divide is 36 divided by 6. If I don't know that the answer is 6, I might go off to the side and do a magic 7 where I say how many 6s can I get out of 36? Well, I know that 2 groups of 6 is 12, which would leave 24. So I could get another 2 groups for another 12. Subtract. So I could get another 2 groups of 6 for another 12, and now I'm down to 0. So 2 plus 2 plus 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6. That would be one way to solve that if I didn't know that 36 divided by 6 is 6. Now I have a negative 2. So I have 48 minus 6 times negative 2. So now I have 6 times negative 2, or I could say I have negative 6 times negative 2. Either way, it'll work out the same. Just make sure that you don't use it twice. Don't say this is negative 6 times negative 2, but then do 48 minus whatever the answer here is. So I'm going to just do 48 minus 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. Because if I'm doing this multiplication problem, there's only one negative sign. So it's odd, so the answer is negative. So now I need, if I'm going to do the box method here for subtraction and addition, I have a positive box and negative box, but I need each one of these to just have one sign. That's positive. If I have the opposite of a negative, I have a positive. So they're both positive. So they're both in this box. So which box has more? This one does. So my answer is going to be positive. This is where I'm going to put my answer. There's none in this box, so how many more in this box than this box? Well, I have 48, and I have another 12, so I have 60. So my answer is 60. Let's move on to a little bit more complicated ones. This one gets complicated because it has parentheses, it has exponent, it has a little bit of everything. So first thing I'm going to do is parentheses. So I'm going to do 1 minus 5. And if I want to do my boxes, I have a positive 1 and I have a negative 5. So which box has more? The negative has more. And how many more? Well, 5 is 4 more than 1, so 4 more. So now I have 1 minus 5 is negative 4. Next, this is not parentheses that I can do anything inside. So my next thing is exponent. So I'm doing negative 4 times negative 4. It's still divided by 4 and it's still negative 7 plus. Now I'm just doing multiplication. So negative 4 times negative 4, that's 2 negatives. So I have a positive answer because 2 is an even number. So even number of negatives gives me a positive answer. 4 times 4 is 16. I still have divided by 4. I still have negative 7 plus. Next, I'm going to do my division, all the multiplication and division before I do any addition or subtraction. So 16 divided by 4 is 4. So I have negative 7 plus 4. Again, to add, I'm going to do my boxes. I have a positive box, the 4 goes in, a negative box, the 7 goes in. Which box has more? The negative. So my answer is going to be negative. How many more in this box than in this box? Well, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 3 more in this box than in this box. So my answer is negative 3. Let's move on to this one. Again, we have parentheses to start with. So I have negative 5 plus 4 times whatever's going to be in there. If I have 8 is positive, 10 is negative. Which box has more? The negative box has more. How much more is 10 than 8? How many more are in this box than this box? 2 more. So 8 minus 10 was negative 2. Now I'm going to do exponents next because first I did parentheses, then exponents, then I'll get into multiplying and dividing. So I have negative 5 plus 4. Negative 2 to the second power means I'm going to take negative 2 and multiply it times itself twice. A negative times a negative is a positive because that's 2 negative signs. That's an even number of negative signs, so it's positive. 2 times 2 is 4. I'm just copying everything down then. Then I have 4 times 4 is the next thing I'm going to do, which is 16. And I have negative 5 plus 16. So if I do these boxes, again, I have a positive box, I have a negative box, and now I'm doing this one. 5 is in the negative box, 16 is in the positive box. Which box has more? This one does. So my answer is going to be positive. How many more in this box than this box? Well, 5 to get up to 16 would take me 11. 16 minus 5 is 11. So my answer is positive 11. This one is one of those, when I said that parentheses could mean groupings, this is one of those kind of groupings. That's the same idea as parentheses. It's what you do first. So the grouping is I have this to do, and I have this to do, and then I'll take whatever this is and divide it by this. So first I'm going to do the 8 plus negative 2 squared. Do the exponent first, so that means 8 plus negative 2 times negative 2. 2 negatives is an even, so it's going to be positive. 2 times 2 is 4. So I have 8 plus 4, so I have 12. So the top is going to be 12. The numerator is 12. Then I do the negative 5 plus negative 1. If I'm going to do the boxes, I have a positive box, I have a negative box. This needs to be just one sign. You need to always simplify to one sign. You can always drop an extra positive, but don't ever drop a negative. So I have negative 5 and negative 1. So they both go in the negative box. So which box has more? The negative box. Oops, that was a 1. The negative box has more, so the answer will be negative. How much more? Well, there's 0 in the positive box. There's 5 plus 1, which is 6 in the negative box. So the denominator is negative 6. So I have 12 divided by negative 6 is my final step. Positive divided by a negative, that means I have 1 negative sign, so my answer is negative. And 12 divided by 6 is 2, so my answer is negative 2. Okay, 3 more. I'm going to do these last 3. So here we have an exponent minus another exponent. So we're going to do the exponents first. This is not a parentheses, it's just the parentheses are there because the exponent applies to that whole thing. So I have 6 times 6 minus negative 4 times negative 4. 6 times 6 is 36. 4 times 4 is 16, and I have 1, 2, 3 negative signs, or you could say I have 2 negative signs here. If you do it this way, this turns into 2 negatives, make a positive answer because it's an even number of negatives. 4 times 4 is 16. And I still have the minus. So I have 36 minus 16. If I wanted to do the boxes, I'd have a positive box and a negative box. 36 goes in the positive box. 16 goes in the negative box. Which box has more? The positive. How many more? Well, 36 compared to 16. There's a difference of 20 there. So it's positive 20. This next one, we're going to do the parentheses first. So I have a negative divided by a positive. So that's 1 negative, which is odd. So the answer will be negative. 45 divided by 15. I'm not sure what that is, so I'm going to see how many times can I add 15 to get 45. How many groups of 15? Well, there's 2 groups. And if I add another 15, there's 3 groups. So if I take this and see how many times I have to add it up to get this, that'll be my answer. It took 1, 2, 3 times. So that's 1, that's 1, that's 1. If you add them up, 1, 2, 3. And I'm just copying down everything else. Now I'm going to multiply. I'm going to say a negative 5 times a negative 3, that's 2 negatives, so the answer is positive. 5 times 3 is 15, so I have a negative 8 plus 15. If I do my boxes, I have a positive box and a negative box. I have a negative 8, positive 15. 15 goes in the positive, 8 goes in the negative. Which box has more? This one does. How many more? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 7 more. So the answer is positive 7. Again, here we're going to do this first, then this, do them separately, and then divide them. So if I have 10 minus negative 3 times 5. So first, I'm going to do my multiplication. Negative 3 times 5, negative times positive, that's 1 negative sign, so it's an odd number, so it's negative. 3 times 5 is 15. So I have 10 minus a negative 15. Simplify this so that it's just one sign, a negative. The opposite of a negative is a positive, so that becomes a positive. So then I have 10 plus 15. I don't think I even need to do my boxes because I know how to add 10 and 15. I get 25. So 25 is my numerator. Then my denominator is negative 5 minus 4 times 4, because this, it's not negative 4 times negative 4, it's 4 times 4. Negative 9 minus 4 times 4 is 16. So now this one I might want to do because it gets confusing. If I have a negative 9 minus 16, let's do the boxes. I've got a negative 9 and a negative 16. So I have a 9 and a 16 in this box. Nothing in the positive box. So my answer is going to be negative because there's more in the negative box. How many more? Well, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 16 plus 9 is 25. So it's negative 25. When I'm doing a division, there's only one negative sign. That's an odd number of negatives. So my answer, I'm going to move this down here. 25 divided by negative 25. The answer is going to be negative because there's only one negative sign, and that's odd. 25 divided by 25 is 1. So my answer is -1.